Basic foundation. Number 1, discard bowl. Number 2, tea towel. Number 3 is learning how to season. If you can just get the reps in when it comes to chopping too, I always say start with cremini mushrooms to learn how to chop, keeping the blade up against your knuckle. If you knock down all 4 of those things, 1, you're going to want to get the reps in and cook more for your friends and family. 2, by getting the reps in, you're going to be adding more skill set and making more mistakes, but learning from them. And 3, you're going to enjoy cooking. Like, it's going to be so much more fun.
An entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow. What's cracking?
What up, y'all? Welcome back to the Creatures of Habit podcast. The spring is here. It actually feels like summertime in New York City. The only downside to that is we're in Times Square, where this podcast studio is. And Times Square is just hell on earth, man. It's hell on earth. Anyway, enough of my complaining. I'm with a very good friend, an old friend, a truly old friend. His name is Dan Churchill. He is Australian. He is handsome. He's got one of the best accents in the world. And he could very well be just a smidge more handsome than I. He's a chef, he's an author, he's a podcaster, he's a media maven. He is an athlete. He, does a lot of things that we're going to talk about today on the podcast. I've been wanting to get Dan on the podcast for a long time. We have done a lot of similar things in our career and trajectory, and I'm very, 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 very stoked to introduce him to you if you don't already know him. Also, Dan has just finished his second book?
Something like that, bro. I think 5, but like...
5th book? Fucking 5th book. It's right here. You can see it. There we go. It is called Eat Like a Legend. He really does understand how to put flavor profiles together in a very healthy and sustainable way, which I love about the guy. And this book, whether this episode is going to drop before it launches or after it launches, you got to check out the book because it's going to go on pre-sale pretty soon here. And I'm one of the first guys to get it. So anyway, Dan Churchill, welcome.
Bro.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks, dude, man. Definitely not more handsome. I can definitely say that. Dude, look at you, bro.
Poll. We're taking a poll here.
I really, just everyone listening in, I just want to say that you really are a true old friend, man. Like, it's to be sitting here with you. I was saying just off air, it was really cool to get us together at an event the other night and just be like, fuck, he's such a homie. Like, you know, you and I have done so much, so similar things, and a lot of people in this world, particularly in our space, can have a lot of egos that can get in the way of that. And I've always looked at someone like you and can just be like, no matter what, he's a homie. And so I just appreciate that from you, dude.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
We had restaurants right down the street from each other. We worked out at similar places. We competed in similar races. So yeah, we've done a lot. And I really do look at you as one of these guys that is always fucking super kind and humble every time I see you. And you always have some really cool new project that you're working on. And I've never heard a single person ever say a negative thing about you. So I'm grateful for our friendship, and I'm grateful you're on the show. Before we started shooting, we were talking about fitness and what we've done in the world of fitness, and the majority of the stuff that we've done there's always been a goal and a target or a competition or a race of some sort that we've been focused on. Rarely is it like, oh yeah, I'm just training for life. And I used to think that I needed to always have a target. And what I've learned, I've been training for 20 years now, straight, without taking a break. And for the majority of that time, it's always been working towards something as opposed to just training for life. And in the last probably 6 to 12 months, I've really been rethinking that because I'm getting older. My body is not recovering as fast as it used to. And I fucking hate being injured. And all the things that you and I do are prone to injury. So I want to dig into that a little bit because I think it's important. And you've done a few things over the last year that have created some pretty bad injuries for you. So what are your thoughts on that?
Dude, I really love this because like it really poses a lot of questions we can all relate to. Like you and I are pretty much like we've been brought up in kitchens, so there's the ego in that in general. To be chefs is egotistical, you have to be to some degree. But then we're also amongst like some really good humans in the fitness and athletic space. And it's not like I don't look at it like this. I don't look at it and go, I want to beat them. I just want to be doing stuff that's just like, I'm inspired by these people doing feats that I also want to achieve for me. That also is, like a challenge within itself. Do I actually need to do these? I don't need to do them. I don't. But something inside of me is just like, I want to do it. And so the challenge we face is, one, dedicating a moment of our life or year to this task that we don't actually need to do, and probably creates a lot of problems physically to our bodies, but we just say we're going to be savages and go do it. And that's definitely partly ego, like without a doubt. I think the one caveat is that what fuels you to this success. And for me, Leadville last year wasn't for anybody else. I didn't have a brand approach me. I didn't have I didn't see someone else do it and go, I want to do it because that person did it. I did it because I wanted to look back on my life and say, I did the Leadville 100. And throughout the course of the training of all this, you're obviously doing a lot of miles, aimlessly just putting one foot in front of the other. We've all heard David Goggins. But I will say it was one of the most therapeutic moments of my life, just being present as I'm training. So I agree there's a lot of ego involved and things that we have to check. We should probably check ourselves more than we do. But I will say the benefits I got to those journeys mentally was pretty magnific, So I don't want to take anything away from the mental side I get from it.
Yeah, I also agree. Only up until recently have I started to think, maybe I don't need to have a target. Maybe I don't. And, I kind of correlate it to it's weird, but I've started hunting in the last 3-4 years. And I love hunting. And it's so interesting that I could spend the spring and the summer and early fall tracking the paths of these animals that I'm hunting, and I do it. I got cameras. I'm in the woods. I'm really looking at their paths through the woods and trying to see where they come in, where they come out. Really, really sort of building the journey of what it's going to be like the day that I get that 8-point buck. However, the day hunting season starts, every single hunter in my area is out, and shots start fucking going off. And all those deer change their systems. They literally, the paths, because they are true creatures of habit, these deer. They walk on the same paths in, they walk on the same paths out. You can go into the woods and just look, and you're looking in the woods, and there's trees everywhere, and but you can see these paths through the woods. And so I'll get out there, and I've got this target. I'm gonna take out. I know the deer that I'm looking for. I know the buck that I'm looking for. I've been tracking this buck. I've seen the buck every single day in the same spot. And I get out there, and I set my shit up, and the buck isn't there. And then I come back the next day, and I'm like, that buck is gonna be there. I know it. Come back the next day, the buck isn't there. And what it kind of makes me understand is that the target is not the important piece of the puzzle. It's not, because if it was all about the target, I wouldn't go hunting, because I really enjoy the process, right? And so what I heard you just say to me is it wasn't about Leadville 100 necessarily. It was about the journey to get there. And once you got there, whether you finished it or not, or hit the time you wanted or not, or whatever, wasn't the significant piece. And so what I'm learning now about life in general, specifically when it comes to my fitness, is the target what I'm gunning for, or is it the day-to-day battle of making the decision to go and train hard and feel like I've accomplished something?
Yeah, man. The training's 99% of the time as well. And so look at Olympians. They look at 4-year lifespan of what they're trying to achieve. And to be honest, a lot of them don't like what they do anymore. They're over it, But for us, we've got to like the journey, because we're not getting it's not necessarily our main form of income at all. But for me, I've registered the importance of community and doing stuff with friends as a huge part of my life and my health. So when I'm training for something, be it a high rocks, a marathon, just even resistance training, whatever it is, like we spoke the other day, I'm like, I can't wait to come up and just sweat it out with you, because to me, that's like, I love that probably just as much as the day where everything's like unbelievable. But I think that's the biggest lesson I learned long ago is if I don't enjoy the journey, with the journey being 99% of the actual time you're putting toward a task, that task better be fucking awesome. Otherwise, you're wasting your time because there's only I value time more than anything. And so the split second you have with that amazing moment is fleeting. But the time it took you to get there, sometimes we can neglect, but can be just as, if not more important and enjoyable than the actual outcome.
Yeah, and I also think that when it comes to the fitness, nutrition, sort of mindset stuff that I know you and I really have a passion for and make a priority, ultimately it becomes, for me anyway, I can't speak for anybody else, but the ability to win no matter what, every day. The ability to win, right? Like human beings, I think, inherently want to feel accomplished, want to win. You wake up with your cup either empty or half full, and it's your job to get out there every day and fill that thing up so that at the end of the day, you're like, boom, awesome. That was a great day. And from my experience, it's not about business. It's not about things. It's about what have you done today to actually feel accomplished? What have you done? And I've learned that with fitness and nutrition specifically, I can control those wins every day. And then ultimately those wins build confidence. And then that confidence gives me the ability to take risks on a regular basis. I want to talk about habits because this is the Creatures of Habit podcast. I do believe in habits, even though habits are sort of like on a downward trend these days. Everybody's like, fuck your morning routine. Like, just go do something. Go to work. Or do you have a morning routine?
Yeah, I do, man. I do. I get up and I pretty much make a coffee straight away. And like, there's the coffee, because I'm Australian, coffee's like religion. So I have to make sure the coffee pour is perfect. So I get the right espresso. If it's not dialed in properly, I have to dial it in. So I have my espresso, reading a book with my red light therapy and Maverick sitting next to me. That's pretty much every day if I'm in the city. And then, get a sweat session in and then pretty much hit work. So I think that's my sanity. I always say that one thing you just said earlier, control the controllable. You can't control a lot of the facets of your day that will happen throughout the day. If you want to do something for you, do it in the morning. Simply put, it's the most controllable time of your day, before distractions take place, before responsibilities kick in. So that's why I love that moment to myself. It means that I love myself enough to put myself in this position to then love others throughout the day.
Talk to us quickly about the red light. What's your setup like?
I got the Vital red light smaller pad. I literally put it up on my coffee table in front of me and I sit cross-legged. And some people meditate. I just prefer to read my book as I do that. And so I literally I'll do 20 minutes, no more. So 2 10-minute efforts.
Just kind of hitting you in the face.
Straight up. Yeah, I got that. I wear just underwear. So I'll have a hit me legs. Pretty much from like legs and a little bit of the shins as well, all the way up, mainly in my face.
You should drop the underwear, dude. Honestly.
I was thinking about it. The only issue is if Milena comes in the morning, I won't be able to do any more red light.
Truth. Good point. However, there has been studies that red light on the balls, primo.
Dude, I'm gonna send you
testosterone.
I'm gonna send you a selfie of me cupping my nuts tomorrow as I
might make some money on that because I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna OnlyFans that. I'm gonna throw that on the old OnlyFans. One static image.
Just give you a couple of referral points on that one.
All right. So you wake up. Is there a specific time you wake up in the morning, or do you just kind of wake up when you feel ready?
Yeah, typically like I'm setting between 5:15 and 6 on an average basis. That's very dependent upon if I'm working at the restaurant the night before. And so, as you know, shift time can get pretty late. And so I still want to account for that. So if I know I'm going to work at the restaurant, I'm not going to get out until like 9:30, which is still pretty early. I won't get back till 9:45, which means I won't get into bed until 10:30. And I'm still going to be a little bit wired. So I won't fall asleep till 11. So then to set my alarm for like 5 or 5:15 is not ideal. So really kind of like leaning into making sure as much as my sleep's inconsistent with the time I fall asleep, I'm still trying to get consistent amount of at least 7.5 hours or 7 hours time in bed. I think that's so crucial. My biggest factor with wearing Whoop is like I really focus on restorative sleep. So the two factors of REM and slow wave that are more impactful on our recovery, both physically and cognitively.
Have you found anything that's helped increase the quality of your sleep via REM and slow wave?
I found that my body falls into a really parasympathetic nervous state cooking. And so a lot of people find that stressful. The data I've seen on my stress monitor inside the interface shows that my parasympathetic state is obviously super activated during that time. And if I do that before bed, there's a good relationship between getting into slow wave earlier. And that's just phenomenal for me. So I know that like anything, there's the common ones that we know of, like any blue light is an effect, eating too close to bed an effect, temperature of your room an effect. What I love about like looking at data is, particularly for yourself, is you can understand your own rhythms and habits. And I found that if I work out too close to bed, specifically a HIIT class, it would definitely be a negative effect on my deep sleep. But cooking's a good one. Also, if I read before bed, I'm straight into deep sleep. So they're huge.
I also find true flow state when I'm cooking. It's one of my favorite. So I don't get to cook dinner typically Monday through Friday because I get home like right at dinner time and my wife is like very punctual with dinner. So that for me, like I can't wait to get to the dinner table and eat. But I don't get to cook dinner most nights. On Saturday and Sunday, I'm a beast and a savage and I'm cooking all day because I cook my meal prep on Sundays, but I really do love, we typically have friends over. It's one of my favorite things all time favorite things to do. I love putting on some music. Honestly, for me, lighting some incense or a candle, setting up my kitchen, like so everything is just easy. I got my bowls, my waste bowl, I got my finish bowl. I got everything just ready to rock. And I just love it, dude. I really, really do love cooking. That's such a great call out.
It's interesting for you and I to say that because we grew up at it as a profession, right? We also owned restaurants. So like the idea of it can almost be traumatic. But I think it just shows our passion for this kind of arts and craft, if you will. Like it just shows how deeply connected to our purpose and passion that it is. And I could actually visualize you in that moment because I know that moment where you've got all your respective things out. You're just about to pick up the knife the first time, music's going in the right format, and you're just like, I'm so happy and chill. And then if you do have friends come over, it's amazing. It's great. You get to share like this amazing moment and you don't know about the cooking, but just together. And so that's why I'm sure, I'm very curious, people talk to you about cooking and they go, I find it stressful or whatever. Like we weren't the best cooks straight off the bat. We weren't the best. I didn't nail it the first time. I don't know. I'm assuming I didn't, right? I can't remember, but I'm assuming I didn't nail it. And this is where like, habits, I call getting the reps in is so important.
We had my wife, we love hosting in our house. That's another thing that I just love about not living in New York City anymore is that we've got real community where we are. I actually have so much, I feel like I have so much more real community, even though our friend group isn't huge, which I'm fine with. It's like there's like 6 to 8 people that we really have connected with since we've moved upstate. But we host often, and like we are the hosting house for the most part. And we hosted one of my wife's very good friends' baby shower 2 weeks ago, and there were 60 people that came, and for me, I was like, I cooked a massive pork shoulder. I cooked 15 pounds of shrimp. I made, we did a whole entire taco setup. So it was like basically a taco day. And all these people were there, and I'm like, in this flow state, just cooking. And a lot of these people have never, they've had catered food before. They've eaten, obviously, at many restaurants, but they've never actually seen, it was weird, but they've never actually seen someone cooking a large meal like right in front of them, And outside of the pork that I did the day before, I was cooking everything a la minute, man. I was cooking I grilled the shrimp. I grilled all the veggies. So they were just seeing this, and they kept on stopping me and being like, "Oh my God, I can't believe like how you're making food, all this food." And I was just like, it was just one of those moments where I was just like, wow, like this is a skill that I love, that people really love too, to like people really appreciate. I don't think that there's any other medium that gets people together, excited, and communicating more efficiently than food.
That's why I fucking love my job. I love cooking, man. You're right. Living in New York, like in the city, you don't have access to a lot of things. And so like my girlfriend and I just bought an apartment down in Friday. I'm going to renovate the whole thing specifically to have a sick kitchen so I can do all the things that you're talking about. Because that to me is more important. Like I get so much, call it currency, out of that feeling and what I do with friends and having people around, that if I look back on my life, that is just compounding interest of awesomeness. So yeah, dude.
What kind of, do you have any habits that you like to implement when it comes to cooking, like anything that you do that, I mean, the listener can just sort of say, all right, well, if I try this could potentially enhance my cooking game?
Yeah, I think like, dude, you said one, even just having a discard bowl. I think that is like, I know it sounds obvious to some people, but just having like, if you're chopping up veggies, having one place you're going to put all like the scraps, whether it be compost or rubbish, whatever it is. That's just one little thing that's like, yeah, like I went a little bit extra on the setup, but now it saves me time, a bit more of a pro. Okay, cool. I'd say like most people still don't put somewhat damp tea towel underneath their chopping board, which can make the chopping board move around, which makes them feel awkward when they're chopping, which makes them feel less confident in general.
Walk through that tip. That's a good one.
Yeah, so this is something we learned. Go to your basin and just simply wring out some water in a damp tea towel. Bring it out so it's like still damp but not dripping wet.
And just so everybody knows, a tea towel is probably Australian for paper towel.
My bad. So anyway, you essentially get your paper towel and put it underneath the chopping board. And then you put your chopping board on top and just give it a little push back and forth. You'll see there's so much more friction to prevent it from sliding. So when you're chopping something, be it an onion or even just meat, instead of the board moving all over the place, you've got a nice sturdy base of support. So I'd say like, getting that set up right, that's cool. Having salt, like molten salt, in an open little small bowl is clutch to me. Because like it means that you're going in to grab something that's already open and it's easy to get to, and seasoning is so important to elevate your cooking. In the book I talk about like how to understand seasoning and make it relatable to everybody, like just to understand how to season. And so I'll break this down to simple steps, but I always say that, as you know, salt isn't what you're looking for when you add salt to an ingredient. You're not looking for it to add flavor. When you add salt to anything, it removes moisture. So if you've got flavor and you've got moisture and you remove the moisture, you're concentrating the flavor. That's the purpose of salt, to bring out the natural flavor already inside something. And so if salt was, put into, I always say the metaphor of a party, salt is the club promoter. It brings everyone to the party, right? But the club promoter can only bring people there. If people want to stick around, it needs other seasonings, other things to happen. And that's where acid comes in. So acidity is the DJ, my friends, because the DJ is there to make sure everyone's having a pimping good time, goes and gets more beers and stays on the dance floor. And so that's what acidity does. So salt brings people to the party. Acidity makes sure the flavor that was brought to you sticks around. So if you're ever tasting something and you don't feel the flavor is even apparent, add a bit of salt. If you get the flavor, but it's very short-lived, add in some acidity. And that can come in the form of lemon juice, lime juice, any of the form of vinegars, a little bit of wine, Tomatoes have acidity in them, and we'll stop there. But I think like basic foundation, number 1, the sky bowl. Number 2, tea towel. Number 3 is learning how to season. If you can just get the reps in when it comes to chopping too, I always say start with cremini mushrooms to learn how to chop, keeping the blade up against your knuckle. If you knock down all 4 of those things, 1, you're going to want to get the reps in and cook more for your friends and family. 2, by getting the reps in, you're going to be adding more skill set and making more mistakes, but learning from them. And 3, you're going to enjoy cooking. Like, it's going to be so much more fun.
So true, dude. The truth is my cooking style has evolved into absolute simplicity.
Yeah, bro.
It has evolved from trying to be fancy and making my own fucking ricotta cheese every night to having sauces with also, like the sauce had to be bright and vibrant and super colorful and, infused oils. And like, I literally have boiled it down to awesome olive oil, great salt, and fucking lemon. Boom.
Dude.
That's it.
Cento per cento.
That's it.
That's it.
And also, by the way, obviously when I'm cooking proteins, obviously you're going to cook different proteins, different styles and different ways. If you're cooking a piece of meat, you're going to want to sear it and then kind of finish it in the oven, right? If you're roasting a chicken, you're going to want to, I like to sear my chicken first and then let it roast in the oven. But my secret sort of formula is that oven's at 425 degrees. And I take the veggies that I cook all the time and I hit them with olive oil and salt. Obviously, as you said, right, seasoning is something that becomes almost like muscle memory. The more you do it, the better you get at it. So when I season now, I don't even think about it. For whatever reason, I've done it so many times that it just kind of it's just right. That said, I do think seasoning is probably the scariest part of cooking for most people that are trying to cook for others, right? Because like you don't want to over-season. It sucks if you under-season. However, if you do under-season, having a little bowl of molten salt on your table to finish the food just kind of fixes that problem. If you over-season something, it's kind of done and there's really not much you can do. But I'm so stoked that you wrote about that in the book because I really do agree with you that is probably the barrier to entry for most people where the fear comes in.
Dude, I remember the moment I learnt seasoning. And it was like the moment I can kind of attest to is when Thor gets his hammer. Like I felt like I just understood the power of flavor like that. It happened just instantly. But yeah, I'd say along with like seasoning along with cooking chicken breast or cooking chicken to make sure it's not undercooked are the 2 scariest things that people have, without a doubt.
One of the greatest things to eat of all time in my mind is delicious mozzarella di bufala with tomatoes and basil. And when you think about that dish, right, it's such a simple dish, right? You've got really, really soft, supple, very mild tasting cheese. But then you've got these, if you've done it right, you've got these beautiful, juicy, acidic tomatoes and the basil to sort of cut through and add a little herbaceous flavor. But if you notice, anybody who's preparing a real mozzarella and tomato dish that knows what they're doing, they always finish it with delicious oil and salt. And that to me is like, hey, you're taking something that's got a really mild flavor profile, but it's beloved globally, so simple, and it's those ingredients, right? It's acid, fat, and salt. I really just think that if people are listening that are not cooking, I promise you, and I'm so happy that you said that cooking really helps put you into this place where, I mean, it really impacts your ability to get qualitative sleep, because there is really something special, and it's something that human beings have been doing for hundreds of thousands of years. It's a primal thing for us, and we've gotten so far away from it. We just expect food to show up.
Dude, like, back to what we said before, it's like, get habits going. The problem we find with cooking is people find it intimidating, costs too much, and just don't feel like they have the skill set. So I've been saying this challenge to people. Cook Every Tuesday night for the next 3 weeks, the same meal. The first time you cook it will be the most expensive, will take the longest, and it'll be the hardest. By the time you get to the third one, you'll have all the ingredients, you know where everything is in the kitchen, and you'll be super quick, and you probably cleaned up before you even finish the dish because you started to understand where everything was. Just like going to the gym and trying to build your chest size, just like learning any instrument or a language, getting the reps in is so simple to apply to the same principle if you give yourself the respect and time to do so. But yeah, dude, I can't be more just loving of the industry that we're a part of.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it was very, very difficult as well to step away from the world of restaurants when I decided to do that in 2020 and launch Creatures of Habit. I know I will have a restaurant again in the future, and I know that restaurant will most likely be sort of far more about what I really want to do than what I think is needed in the market, I want to just finish off with a wind down routine, and if you have one.
I'd say that my wind down routine, honestly, is like at nighttime, my brain's all over the shop. Like by the end of the day, I'm not like necessarily, I'm physically tired, like, low resting heart rate, I fall asleep, but my mind is racing. So I've noted like my wind down time is either spending time with Milena and Maverick, just chilling, myself watching things on YouTube that just on my phone, just that will take my mind away from thinking, or reading. And it's funny because like watching your screen is not good for you. But for me, sometimes I find it's actually really good for me to fall asleep. And part of that is because my mind races so much that I need to kind of like put it into a position of just absolute chill zone. And if that's watching a movie, if that's like, and the thing that I'm watching on YouTube usually is like Tom Brady just repeats, like legitimately just the guy being a savage. But I find myself in that position more often than not. And reading does help, but the problem with reading is I tend to read a page, fall asleep, and then read the page again, fall asleep, read the page again, fall asleep, and then chuck the book because I get annoyed the fact I can't remember to read the page again. But yeah, man, it's kind of these days I'm trying to spend more time with Milena. I think that's the biggest thing. And it's hard because she travels a lot and I travel a lot. So,
dude, I love you, bro.
I love you,
Such a
bro.
good combo.
Always, dude.
Outside of the book, give us a little, when is the book going to drop?
Book drops 21st of May. So as of today, it's a few weeks away. And so we're trying to obviously hit the bestseller list, which you need all the pre-orders in the world to do. And then drops 21st of May. And then, we're away, man.
And then you've got High Rocks. You're doing High Rocks in June.
High Rocks June 1, Leadville in August. And
so you're doing Leadville again?
Yeah.
Wow. Savage.
I know. And then New York City Marathon. But I think I'll be chill. That's like my favorite day of the year, so I'm doing that.
New York City Marathon?
Yeah, bro.
I would love to do the New York City Marathon again. My back stuff is... It sucks so bad that I have this back issue.
What is it, man? What is it?
I have a ruptured L4, L5 disc.
Oh, just that.
Yeah. And that happened in 2012. And because of that rupture, my L4, L5 is ruptured, L3, L4 has suffered on top of L4, L5, and L5, S1 has also suffered. So there's disc degeneration in the two discs that are above and below L4, L5. And my lower back is just, until someone figures out a surgery that actually is effective on the lower back, I've done stem cell in my back. I've just got to fight with I have chronic pain. And so, it's not, and I've had severe bouts with sciatica. It's just not worth it for me. Sciatica is debilitating, and more so, it sucks physically. Obviously, it's very, very painful, but more so for me, it's way more catastrophic to my mental state than it is to my actual physical. Then I care about my physical pain. It's just for me not being able to do things.
Yeah.
So I have to be very careful with it.
I was gonna follow it up actually because you're early to mid 40s. You're a guy that if I was looking at you going, I'm in my early to mid 40s going, fuck you, because you're very handsome, well put together, and you've got your life in order to the external world because you have. But at the same time, one of your biggest attributes to that is your ability to lift and push and do more, way more than guys your age. Like, you know, I never even knew your age, and I don't reflect on your number to determine what you can and can't do. You're my mate. So like at the end of the day, you and I go lift. I don't say he's like, you know, X amount of years older than me. But for you as well, just internally, you're talking about your mental side. If you are a guy in your mid 40s starting to get into this position and you grew up being the athlete, how are you dealing with that mentally?
You know, I think really what is coming down to is I'm just starting to really look like how we started this conversation. I'm looking at my life as I have zero plan on not being able to do what I do now 20 years from now, 30 years from now. I want to feel strong and have the ability to go run, 10 sprints or 5 miles at any moment. And I want to be able to, but really more than all of that, I want to make sure that like I'm available to be there for my kids and my wife, right? In the most like effective, efficient way. And so there are times where I push really hard in the gym and then I come home and my boys are like, "Hey Dad, can we go play soccer?" And I'm like, "Oh man, my back." And I'm starting to think like, "Hey man, like is that how you want to feel? Like is that how you want to feel? Wouldn't you rather be able to wouldn't I rather have my son say, "Hey Dad, can we go play soccer?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." Or forget that, like, "Hey boys, let's go kick the ball around for an hour," So I've really started to rethink what this fitness thing is for me. And like I said, this guy Marcus Philly, who I've been following for a long time, savage athlete, pro CrossFit athlete for years, competed in the games, I think 5 times. I think his last games was 2016, and came out of that and sort of realized that the kind of training that he was doing, which is the kind of training that I like to do as well, is just, it's a young man sport. And there are other ways to get a very similar effect aesthetically and mentally that don't require that kind of intensity. And I'm definitely following Marcus Philly's programming right now because it's hard work. I push myself real hard, but I'm not in the gym for 2.5 hours, and I know that I'm getting everything I need to get, and I don't feel like I'm injuring myself. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm like, there is definitely ego that has propelled me over the years in the competitions that I've done, and I just know that, man, like the reality is I'm not 25 years old. I'm not. So, and I'm not going to be a professional athlete, right? Like I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a business guy, and I love my life, and I want to keep it that way. I don't want to suffer in pain. So anyway, dude, enough about me, man. I really appreciate you. Where can everybody find you? Where can they follow your journey?
Yeah, dude, Dan Churchill on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. You on TikTok?
Yeah.
Attaboy. And then, YouTube as well. And then get the book at Eat Like a Legend. Well, actually, go danchurchill.com and you can hit pre-orders there.
Yeah, make sure if this book, I don't know when I think this episode is going to probably drop after the book launches, but regardless, make sure you pre-order the book if I post it on social media, and once this episode drops, grab the fucking book because I know it's going to be an awesome book for you to check out. Churchill, you're the man, dude. I really appreciate you.
Appreciate you, my dude. Always.
Everybody, that was such a great conversation with my brother. I am so grateful for you guys tuning in and listening this far along on the Creatures of Habit podcast. I really do love this part of my job. I love getting to sit down with people that inspire the daylights out of me, and now hopefully have inspired you to just be a smidge better. Be a smidge better. That is the goal on a daily basis. That is what we're trying to do here with the brand of Creatures of Habit. And so I love and appreciate you guys for being here on the journey with me. Do me a favor, if you find yourself to be so kind, subscribe to this podcast and give us a 5-star rating and a review. If you don't like the podcast, don't subscribe. Definitely don't give us anything less than a 5-star rating, and certainly don't give us a bad review. You can DM me and tell me how bad I suck, but please don't give us a negative review because that would suck. I don't think anybody that's listened this far is going to give us a negative review. So I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Until the next one, y'all. Peace.